Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 260. Seems like a big number. I'm Lisa, your host. I'm Fiber Nymph on Ravelry and in other places around the internet. I usually go down through the long list of where you can find everything related to the podcast or related to my yarn company, Fiber Nymph Dye Works. But honestly, I say that every single week. And so I'm going to just pop in a screen right here that shows all of the places where you can find me. And all of that information will also be down in the drop-down bar, so you should be able to find it. I'll try to remember to post it with show notes too. I don't usually put it all in the show notes, although I figure if you're at the show notes, you already know where to find me in certain places. Oh, anyway, how are you? Hope you're having a good week. Today is Thursday, October 12th, and we're actually having a nice seasonably temperatured day today. In fact, it's chilly enough out here in the porch room that I was able to put my antler cardigan on because I was cold. So you gotta love sweater weather. It was crazy warm this week, not just warm but rainy, and so it was humid, and we do not like humidity. We being me and the thousands and thousands of hair on my head. The hair actually probably does like the humidity because it's like, woohoo, let's party! And it's me going, stop that, settle down. So I'm enjoying today that is a little less humid, cool, overcast. We did have some rain overnight. I don't know, it looks like it might rain again, but I don't care because I'm in the house, cozy, warm, it's perfect. So let's get started. I have all kinds of things to actually show you this week. I made some decent progress on things. Let's start with the cardigan because that's what I'm most excited about. No, it's not done. I'd really be excited. I actually would be wearing that. Well, maybe I wouldn't because that's a super warm cardigan, but you know what I mean. This is my Hero cardigan, H-I-R-O, by Julia Farwell Clay, that I am knitting out of Let Lopi, which here's one of the balls of Let Lopi. This is an Icelandic wool that I purchased through the Woolly Thistle, which is a lovely shop. In fact, I was on the shop website just before I started recording. I have it bookmarked. It's like up in my bookmarks toolbar, not even a menu. Like I have it right there. Like I can just click on it so dangerously easily. But I didn't buy anything. I just like to go look. Anyway, so when you saw this last, I had joined sleeves to the body and I was still in the process of doing the transition rounds that would take me to the beginning of the color work. And so I have made great progress on the color work in this past week. Matter of fact, I have gotten through not just one, not just two, but I've hit the third color of my color work. It's very exciting. This is getting a little large and unwieldy and hard to show, but I'll hold it up as best I can. I've got my little rubber band stoppers on there so that I won't lose my stitches. Okay. I had to move it to a bigger bag, like an actual market bag kind of bag, because it's just way too big for any of my project bags at this point, but here it is. So here, I'll try to hold the color work up closer. So I started with this deeper purple. It's showing up really well on the screen actually. When I was working on it with the purple, it kind of seemed like it was very not similar to the gray, but there wasn't a lot of differentiation. But in the light, because I mean I work on this like really early in the morning, so I've got lights on, but it's still a little dim. But in broad daylight like this, when it's really bright, you can definitely see the color differences. So I started with this deeper purple, and then I transitioned up into this darker tealy kind of blue-green. And just this morning now, I have transitioned up into this brighter purple. Some of them have names. It depends on where I bought them. The ones from the Woolly Thistle do not have labels with names on them, but the ones that I bought a couple of years ago from, I believe it was the Salty Sheep down in Swansboro, North Carolina. They have labels. So this is Grape Heather, 9432. So it's definitely a brighter purple than the other one. Now, here's the other one. So what I was happy to see was this is how much I have left after doing that first color. And if you remember when I was talking about this before, I thought I was going to have to transition in some extra skeins, like other colors, because the way the pattern's written, it calls for one ball of each of the three contrasting colors. However, the yarn that was used for the original pattern is a totally different yarn than what I am using, and it had actually had over twice the yardage as the balls that I have, the Let Lopi has. So I wasn't thinking I was going to be able to do the whole section, but as it turned out, I was totally able to do the whole section with this. So I'm really glad that that worked out. And I have absolutely no qualms. Let's see, where's the other ball? Oh, it fell. Here's what I have left so far of that tealy blue color. I don't know how many more rounds I have to go with that, but I'll definitely have enough of that. And then this, I'm not sure if all of the colorwork sections are equal in the number of rounds you're doing with them, but you're also doing decreased rounds occasionally. So it's obviously fewer stitches after you do your decreased rounds. So technically you would be using a little bit less yardage each color that you go up, just by nature of decreasing stitches with the decreased rounds. What I need to do, because if you'll remember, I bought extra yarn because this blue, this is the color that I want to have up at the very top of my sweater. And the way the pattern is written, you have your first contrasting color, second contrasting color, and then the third contrasting color is the last of the colorwork plus the rest of the sweater. I'm not doing it that way. I'm going to have one contrasting color, two contrasting colors, third contrasting color, and then I'm going to transition from this up into that light aqua, like this. This is what I bought extra balls of, so I made sure I have enough. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to do that transition, because obviously there's no charting for that transition since the transition is not written into the pattern. I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to do a little bit less of this last color and then kind of fudge my own transition based on the chart, the way it's written, and then it'll be fine. The nice thing about this design, the chart of this design, is that it's fairly random looking. Like, even as I look at the chart itself, I mean, sometimes you can see patterns within a chart. I'm really not seeing any pattern. And even when I look at the finished sweater pictures that came with the pattern, I'm not seeing like a specific pattern in that. I mean, here's, oh, I don't want to show you the chart. But I mean, if you look at that front, it doesn't look, I don't know. I'm not seeing a lot of patterning. I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of patterning. I'm not seeing a lot of really regular, discernible, predictable patterning. I don't know. Part of my issue also is I've messed the charts up a little bit. This middle color, this teal green, I was working on it this morning, and I realized, I totally skipped a line of the chart. And so I just went back and I did it where, like, 2 rows later, I mean, I just added it in. It didn't matter. Like I said, I can't really see a regular pattern, and I don't care. It'll look pretty to me. It's almost like unintentional. It's like intentional randomness or something is what it looks like to me. So that's, you know, part of it. And then the other part of it is that somewhere along the line, I came up with either a stitch too few or a stitch too many. And I'm not sure how I did that. But that was kind of throwing off my color work too. And that is something that I can see as I go around. I can kind of discern where that started to happen, but I can't figure out what I did that messed it up. And again, I don't care. I did look fairly carefully to make sure I didn't drop a stitch, because that would not be good. Although with this yarn, it'll stick and won't like fall off right away. And I'll obviously look for it even better once it's off the needles and I can really, you know, play with it, but it doesn't matter. Another thing I ended up doing was, if you remember, when I was doing the body at first, the cardigan version of this sweater, it's written for either a pullover or a cardigan. The pullover obviously is written in the round completely. The pullover, or the cardigan, however, is written to be knit flat. And that is horrible for color work. I don't want to do color work flat, but I was doing the bottom part of the sweater flat. So I did very much what I did when I made my antler cardigan, and I knit with one size needle on the right side, and then I purled back on a needle 2 sizes smaller. And that really gave me a good gauge. And so I did that exact same thing with this sweater. I knit on 7s and I purled back on 5s. However, since I knew I was going to be putting it into the round, like joining it in the round and just adding some steek stitches in the middle for the color work, at one point I'm like, why am I just not doing this in the round and steeking the whole entire thing? Like, that was a little late in coming. But that's what I did. But what I realized I did after the fact was, when I finished that last purl back row on the 5s and made the decision to join in the round, I never switched out of the 5s. So these last few inches of, these last few inches of gray before the color work started were knit on 5s, which is significantly smaller than what you're supposed to be knitting on. I think I was supposed to be knitting on 6s. And you might be wondering, why wouldn't you just use 6s to knit and to purl? Because it's a tension thing for me. It works way better if I do the size above and the size below for knitting flat, knitting stockinette flat. Okay, so anyway, since I realized I had done the last part of the body on 5s, and it was a much, well, not a much tighter gauge, but it was definitely a tighter gauge than where I had been. And I can see the difference when I look at it. When I went up to the color work, I knew I was going to go up in needle size generally, because when I do color work, you know, color work tends to pucker, and if your tension isn't quite right, you can have problems that way. So I definitely wanted to avoid that. So I jumped from 5s back up to 7s to do the color work. And honestly, my color work tension is awesome on this sweater. I am so happy with it. There is no puckering. My floats are super neat. Look at my floats. They're really nice and even. Nothing's pooling. However, the other day I was holding this up to the light, and you can see daylight between my color work stitches. That's weird. Like, that never happens for me with color work. So this morning, before I continued, I decided to go down to 6s. So I started knitting the sweater off of the 7s onto the 6s. But when I got about halfway done, I put little rubber bands on the ends of both of the needles so I could try it on, because it was still looking really big to me. Now, even though it's further along than it was the last time I tried it on, it's still not too far along that it's going to fit real well, because I can put the sleeves on, and right now it comes up to about here. It's nowhere near the curve of my shoulder. So I'm basically holding this sweater up, hoping that I can judge. And basically, and the other thing was, the needles like went from the center front to the center back, and then the center back to the center front. So they were kind of pulling apart right here. That's not real great for, you know, judging fit either. The right way to do this would have been to, you know, put waist yarn the whole way through. I wasn't doing that though. Sorry. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, you know, when I have it on and I pull the sleeves up to where they're going to be, this all fits really well in here. Like, I think that fits great. I also did not try this on with like a bra, so that compromised fit as well. Everything is loose because obviously it's still in the needles. Nothing's bound off. When it's bound off, it'll be tighter. And the color work, again, as I continue and as I do the decrease rounds, things will tighten up as well. I've done one decrease round as it's written in the chart. I decided to work after I tried it on, and I was just, my gut instinct was that it was still a little bigger than I was going to want it. I decided to work in an extra decrease round. So I've done an extra decrease round now, and then I've got another one coming up quite soon. Actually, maybe did I already do it? No, I didn't already do it. I think it's the next round after this one. I will be doing yet another one. And then I need to read ahead to see what the deal is whenever you're doing this upper part, how often you're decreasing. And then I will try to figure out if I think I need to add any more extra decreases. Because really, once I get through with the color work, there's not that much sweater left to knit. There's maybe a few inches if this pattern picture is an accurate indication. So we'll see. My biggest thing, I mean, I purposely made the sweater a larger size from the armholes down, and then I decreased in that transition period. I decreased not only to get the correct number of stitches, but to get the correct number of stitches for the next size smaller sweater, because I am smaller size-wise up here and across my shoulders than I am from the bust on down. So that's my biggest fit thing. As long as this ends up fitting me nicely in the shoulders and I don't feel like it's hanging off of me, I will be happy. If it's extra roomy from the boobs on down, I don't care. This is a heavy sweater, and it's most likely going to end up being worn more as sort of like a jacket than an actual indoor sweater anyway. So having the extra room to wear a shirt underneath it is perfect. Anyway, that's a whole lot of information, and maybe you didn't need to know all that, but bottom line is I'm really happy with how this is working. I am loving knitting on this. I don't really want to knit on anything else. This is what I want to work on. And that's good and bad because I have other things I need to be working on and my knitting time is limited, but I am just enjoying this color work so much. And I love, like, this purple, this first purple I used. You see like those tweedy little flecks that are in there? I don't know if you can see any of them, but there's like some pops of pink and there's pops of some blue, and just really fun, and some red. I'm not noticing it quite as much in this teal color. They're both considered heathers. The teal just didn't seem to have as much of the extra colors. It sounds like it's raining, but it's not raining. It's really breezy, and there's all these pine needles hitting the sunroof up above. So, or the skylight. I guess it's not a sunroof. It's not a car. Anyway, so that is my sweater. There's a possibility that I could be done knitting this by the next time you see it. I don't know. It all depends on how much knitting time I have in the next week. And I'm going to have a busy week, but like I said, my knitting time has largely been on this because I'm enjoying it so much. And it is flying, and I knew it would. I knew as soon as I got to the color work part, it was going to fly because I was just going to be very excited about it. So anyway, that has been most of my knitting. However, I have made some progress on a couple of other things. And the other thing that got the most of the other attention is the socks that were originally going to be for me, but I didn't like them. And so I asked my husband, hey, do you like these colors? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, awesome. So I showed them to you last week after I ripped out the stockinette part and went back to the ribbing. And so I've just continued in the ribbing. It's a 3x1 rib. And this is the Regia Arnie and Carlos something design line, color number 3760. And I have to say, now that these socks aren't for me, I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving working on them. The 3x1 rib gives me just enough interest. It's not a plain vanilla sock, so I like knitting plain vanilla socks, but I'm enjoying the 3x1 rib. And yeah, I love Regia, however you want to pronounce it. I really like this yarn, and I like the self-patterning. I still love the red, that orangey red and that tealy green in this, but the fact that it's not as light as I wanted it to be based on pictures I had seen of this colorway knit up, it's not bothering me anymore because it's not for me, and my husband likes it, so yay, he's gonna get socks out of this deal. So fabulous. But this is the sock that I really knit on this week. I did not work at all on the other socks that I'm doing for my son, the ones I'm doing out of the Patons Croix FX. My order that I placed from Craftsy for the 2 extra balls of that yarn has not come yet. I just decided to hold off on doing those socks anymore until the other two balls came, and I can look and see how close the colors are in the second balls as opposed to the balls that I already have, because that will determine how I want to proceed with balls. And I did talk about my options last week, so I'm not going to go through that again. But that's why I didn't work on those this week. The other thing that I did work on, however, was my Rudbeckia shawl. I pulled that out and decided to give it some love. So Rudbeckia is a shawl pattern by Anna Sylvester, who is a Pittsburgh designer and dyer. She dyes yarn as well. And so I have no illusion that I'm going to have this finished by my show next weekend, but I wanted to get back to it anyway. So the last time you saw it, I had finished this pink section, and so I have done these 5 garter ridges, so a black and a pink and a black and a pink and then a black. And so now I am doing the setup rows. Actually, I think I've done the 2 setup rows that I need to do in stockinette in the black. And I will be starting the next lace chart. So there will be more of this lace that was here at the beginning down here. And if I remember correctly, I don't know if it's 2 or 4 small sections of lace. Basically, the pattern for this has become sort of a general guideline. I'm not following it too closely anymore. The same could actually be said for my hero pattern. I've strayed so far from that pattern at this point. Yeah, it's good to have them as general guidelines though. Anyway, I really do like the shawl, and I can't wait to have it done. Not just as a sample, but also just because I want the shawl done. So the yarns that I am using are my yarns. This is Bounce, the Bounce base, in soft black and pink Cadillac, which is super, super blown out right at the moment. Well, it looks super blown out on my screen. It usually isn't in the end, but anyway. So that was just a very little bit of knitting. I think I really only did that. I did that all in one morning when I wasn't working on my sweater. So anyway, I do have 2 other socks that are going to be getting some attention soon. And the one is, you may remember this. I think I finished this first sock maybe during Stash Dash. So I have the first sock, and this was from one of my sock blanks, my hand-painted sock blanks. So here's the rest of the sock blank. I am going to be doing some of these fall leaf sock blanks for the shop this fall, honest. I haven't done them yet, but I will. Anyway, I'm going to cast the second sock on now so that I have a sock with me for the show next weekend, a sock blank sock, because people don't really know what to do with sock blanks at shows. Like, obviously you guys mostly know because you watch podcasts and you probably see them all the time, but the majority of people who come to shows, I've realized, have not seen sock blanks. They don't know what to do with them. They think they're scarves or things that you're supposed to make something out of, which is fine too. I've known people who have done that. But anyway, I like to have a sock blank sock on the needles at shows, just so that I can demonstrate and show people, here, this is what you do with this. It's a nice selling tool. So anyway, I've got the needles in here. I just need to cast on the sock. And that's pretty much all I'll do. I'll probably cast it on, maybe get through the cuff, and then just be knitting on it at the show so people can see it as it's being worked. So that's one. The other sock that's going to be getting cast on soon is going to be out of this yarn. I hope that's showing up well. This is a new colorway that I dyed within the last week or so, specifically for this pair of socks recipients. This is going to be a Christmas gift for my oldest son's girlfriend. I had asked him if he thought she might like some hand knit socks, and he said yeah. And then I asked him colors, and he said pink. I'm like, okay. So my inspiration for this was sort of the whole pink thing that Victoria's Secret has going on, because I think she likes Victoria's Secret. I don't shop there. They don't have my size, trust me. Anyway, so that was my inspiration for this particular colorway. So it's got two wide stripes that are this bright pink, the bright pink, and then the lighter pink. And then it has two narrow stripes in between them of this light silver and a white. So those are going to be getting knit up. She has very tiny feet. So, and I did it on my bedazzled base because she likes sparkle. So, all right. So that is all of my knitting for this week. My current knitting and future knitting. Let's see, anything else? No. So let's get to the knit along. So we're in the autumn quarter of the A Year in the Life of a Knitter knit along. Our focus this month is cleaning out and organizing our stash. And the October challenge is Craft with Deep Stash. So you can find all the information about that in the October challenge thread. The general chatter thread going on has been fun, and some of us have posted pictures of our stash storage, like how we store our stash. So you might want to jump in there, and I love seeing how people store their stash and organize things. I think that's always really interesting. So join us for some chatter about stash and organization and what you're knitting this month. I'd love to know. I wanted to talk just really briefly about looking ahead into knit-alongs for 2018. As I think I've said before, I'm not planning to do another year-long knit-along like we did this year. This has been a lot of fun, but I think we need to do something different next year. So just as a general heads up, I can let you know that January will not be a knit-along month. I plan to dedicate January personally to working on whips. I used to do that every year. The last couple of years I've kind of gotten away from it. Although last year I kind of used Stash Dash for that purpose. I finished a lot of whips during Stash Dash. But my plan for January, after having been really busy this fall and not getting to knit as much as I would like to, and again having a giant bin of whips, is to dedicate January to finishing up projects. So I will invite you along with me on that journey of using January for your own whip finishing or just your own happy knitting for you, especially if you've done a lot of gift knitting over the fall and through December. Maybe there's just something that you really, really want to knit for yourself. January would be a really great month for that. We will pick up with knit-alongs starting in February. And I am right now in the early stages of planning the knit-alongs for next year. They are going to be designer-centric. And I hope this is something that will appeal to a lot of you. And let me just give you a really general overview because, like I said, I'm in the beginning stages of planning it, but I just want to give you an idea of what it's going to be about. Basically, we're going to have 5 2-month periods beginning in February. So it'll be February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. December will not be a knit-along month. That's just crazy talk. I don't want to do a December knit-along. So in the middle of the year, not counting January and December, we will have 5 2-month-long knit-alongs. Each of those 2-month periods are going to be, I will call it a shared spotlight kind of knit-along, featuring 2 different designers each of those 2-month periods. So it won't be one designer one month, one the next month. It'll be both designers for both months. This is where I'm at the very beginning stages of talking to designers and seeing who might be interested in participating in this, because it's not just me saying, oh, we're going to knit so-and-so's patterns this month. I actually would like to find designers who want to be interactive in this kind of an endeavor with me and with us. My hope is that I can find designers who would be willing to possibly design a specific pattern that they would like to debut during their month. I'm especially looking for designers who would like to work with Fiber Nymph Dye Works yarn, or if they have already in the past designed using Fiber Nymph Dye Works yarn, that would definitely be a plus for the knit along as far as I'm concerned. I would like to also be able to do an interview with each of the designers during their 2-month period and share that with you guys. Yeah, so that's a little bit about what I'm thinking. The other aspect to this is I'm very much dedicated to featuring designers who are not what you would consider household names. So I will not be approaching Stephen West or Andrea Mowry or Joji Locatelli. Wonderful designers. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against them, but they have a huge following. Like, they're known in our knitting community, in our knitting world. I would really, really like the chance to work with designers who are not household names, who are, you know, just as brilliant designers. And there's hundreds of them. And I know a lot of you who watch the podcast fall into that category. I've seen your designs. You have wonderful designs. But you're not Joji Locatelli. Like, the whole world doesn't know who you are. And that's fine. And that's who I want to work with. That's what I really want to do, because I want to be able to promote indie designers, newer ones, people who, not even if you're new. I'm kind of babbling because I don't know how to word this quite well. You might have been designing for years and you might have a lovely collection of designs out there, but you're not like this world famous designer. That's who I want. I don't want the world famous designers. So anyway, as I have more information about that, I will share it. I will definitely be making an effort to let you know at least 1-2 month period in advance who will be coming up next, so that you can plan projects. And the reason I want to do 2 different designers is because I know that not every designer is going to be everybody's cup of tea. No matter how lovely their designs are, they just might not be up your alley. So I figure if we have 2 designers, you might have a better chance of finding something that you really, really like from their design collection. Also, I'm planning to have designers paired up who do not necessarily design the same types of things. So there might be a designer who really focuses on socks or small accessories, and another one that focuses on garments or large shawls or something like that. Does that make sense? Just so there's not a lot of overlap. This is not at all meant to be any kind of competition, like which one's better. No, I want this to be a community building effort. Just the same way this knit along this year was. It's been so wonderful that we've had so much chatter, and we've had this dedicated core group of people who have really been along on this knit along all year that have helped build this community within our group. And other people have joined in throughout that time. It's been wonderful. And I want to continue that, but I want to continue that as we focus on some designers and, you know, get those names maybe known in our community a little bit more, and we can share those with other knitters and just help promote those designers. I'm very dedicated to helping to promote indie people, whether it's designers, other dyers, bag makers, you know, you name it. If you're in our industry and you're an indie maker, I want to take advantage of any opportunity I can. Not take advantage. I want to grab onto any opportunity I can to help promote that. And I do the best I can with that. So anyway, that's the whole purpose of my idea for the knit-alongs for next year. Again, more information will be forthcoming as I get more and more of it planned, but I wanted to give you the heads up that that's what's going on. If you guys have any input or any questions about that, or any ideas that you might want to throw out to me that we could incorporate in that, I am totally open to listening to that, since I am still in the planning stages. If you are a designer that you think might fit the role that I'm looking for the designers I want, the type of designers I'd like to feature next year, and you're interested in that, please PM me. I would love to talk to you and give you some more information about all of this. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say about that right now, but stay tuned, because I definitely will have more info as time goes on. All right, so next up is the drawing for the book Seed Stitch. I reviewed this 2 episodes ago, so it would have been episode 258. And the publisher, who is 6th and Spring Books, has been kind enough to offer us a copy for a giveaway. So I closed the thread right before I started recording. We had 47 posts, so it's 46 entries, so I did a random number generator from numbers 2 through 47, and it chose number 21, who is Sock Knitter, and that is Debbie. So Debbie, congratulations. Please PM me when you hear this. Send me your full name and mailing address. I know I probably have it somewhere because I've probably sent you stuff in the past, but to make life easy, please just send me that information again, and I will pass it on to my contact at 6th and Spring so that they can get this book out to you. And I hope you enjoy it because it is really a lovely book. So, congratulations! And I was contacted by Lisa Mott, who is Use Your Yarn on Ravelry, EWES, Use Your Yarn, on Ravelry and Instagram. She has designed her first pattern, and she said it may be her last because that was really hard. It's a sock pattern called Stand Up, and here's what it looks like. I don't know if you can see that. There's an arrow motif going up. And I'm just going to read to you what this says at the beginning of the pattern. She said, when I first started playing around with designing these socks, cancer was on my mind a lot. So many friends and family affected by this horrible disease, lives forever changed. I needed a creative outlet for what I was feeling and was inspired by the arrows on the Stand Up to Cancer logo. That is an organization. As I worked on fine-tuning the pattern, I thought about all of the horrible things like diseases, bullying, mental illness that people must battle every day. The idea of standing up became the driving force behind this design, that each stitch knitted was a promise to stand up and lend strength to those fighting the unseen and sometimes seen battles every day. That, in the end, we can all pull up our socks and stand up together. So I thought that was pretty cool. She is, for the month of October, offering 50% of the pattern proceeds. She's sending to Stand Up for Cancer, or Stand Up to Cancer, the organization. So, and also she's doing a giveaway. Everyone who purchases this pattern during the month of October will be entered into a drawing for a skein of Dog Star Knits Stand Up colorway, which comes with a heel and toe mini skein. $3 pattern, so it's so totally affordable. I think it's a wonderful cause because I don't know anybody who has not somehow been affected by cancer, if not personally, like someone you know. So, and it's a fun pattern. And she does mention that even though there's a whole lot of reverse stockinette in this sock pattern, she said it's mostly all knit inside out, so you're really doing very little purling. And the other thing that I found so interesting as I was reading through this is it uses a Chinese waitress cast on. I have never heard of that. So she does give the instructions on how to do that. This pattern is sized for 5 different sizes. Now I will say that the pattern prints out in color. Oh wait, I've got like blank pages in here. My printer is so weird sometimes. Okay. It prints out in color. I don't want to show you the whole thing, but not only does the pattern print out in color, but each size is printed in a different color. So like all of the, as well as being in parentheses, each size is a different color. So it's not a huge big deal. Obviously you can just pick your size and go for it, but just keep that in mind if you don't have a color printer. I don't know if some of that color might be difficult to read. Plus the actual size itself, like here's the 60 stitch cast on page is all written in orange. So you might want to keep that in mind. I don't know if there's a way to change that to all black or not, but you might want to think about that. So anyway, but please go check out that pattern. I will link it in the show notes. And again, she's offering 50% of the pattern proceeds to Stand Up to Cancer during the month of October. So thank you for sending me that, Lisa. Okay. Now I think I'm done with all of the knitting stuff. 10%, basically I'm still listening to The View from the Cheap Seats by Neil Gaiman. It's a very long book. There's like 80 some short readings in there. So I've been kind of pacing myself with that. I'm enjoying it still, but I also had downloaded The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, which is obviously by J.R.R. Tolkien. I don't remember who the reader is, but I've never listened to the book as an audiobook. Matter of fact, I only ever read the Lord of the Rings books once, and it was after I saw the first movie. I had no idea what it was even about. I just knew it was one of those movies that, or books that like the nerdy kids at school used to read in high school. But I went to the movie with a bunch of family members over the holidays when it first came out, and I'm like, I love this movie, and that's when I read the book, because my oldest son actually had the book. I'd purchased it for him. I don't know that he ever read it. But I went home and I found the book and I read it, and then I read the next 2 and I loved them, but I only ever read them once. In the meantime, I've watched the movies a bazillion times. It was so funny. I was mentioning to Bill the other day, I'm like, oh, you know what? I really need to bring the Lord of the Rings movies up here to the Mountain House so that I can watch them on my laptop while I'm working or whatever. He's like, but you've already seen them each like 8 times. And I just thought it was so funny. Like 8 seems like a very arbitrary number to begin with. And I'm thinking, 8. Like multiply that times 10 because I have watched those movies a bazillion times. Yeah. But I love them. They are my happy place. I just love those stories. But anyway, since I had not read the books more than once, I thought, well, it might be fun to listen to them. And so I've been listening to The Fellowship of the Ring, and I forgot how it's different in some ways than the movies. Obviously, they couldn't put everything in the movies, but I forgot how, like, a lot of dialogue that is actually attributed to one character in the movie was said by somebody completely different who may not have even made it into the movie. I thought that was very interesting. And just the way things happened, you know, they definitely condensed things and rearranged things for the movies. But they're definitely good in their own right, but I'm enjoying listening to the story and remembering, oh yeah, that's how it really happened. So that's been fun. Basically right now we're done working at my house on all of the outside stuff. Bill's done a fabulous job on everything there. And so we are now transitioning to doing some stuff up here. This weekend we'll begin tearing the transmission out of his Subaru and rebuilding it, which is mostly going to be him. I'll be here to lend a hand if I need to. I don't do transmissions. He does. He's skilled at all kinds of stuff. But anyway, yeah, the transmission in his car kind of died this year, and he has another car, and he mostly rides motorcycles anyway to work, but his Subaru is his winter car. It's like a 97 Subaru Legacy, I think. I don't know. It's out in the driveway. I don't really pay too much attention to it. But that's what he likes to drive in the winter because it goes no matter what, and he doesn't care if it gets beat up in the snow. So he has to rebuild the transmission before winter. Yay. But that's pretty much all that's going on right now. I'm just spending the rest of this month being busy. I've got deadlines to meet. I'm feeling okay with where I'm at with all my deadlines though, so that's nice. I don't have time to slack off, but I'm good. Things are fine. We will actually be away next weekend. Next weekend, this is kind of merging into shop news too. I'm vending next weekend here on Saturday the 21st at the Raggz Fiber Festival and Wool Market, which is taking place at the Delmont Fire Hall. Delmont is about 20-25 miles east of Pittsburgh on Route 22. Actually, the fire hall is on Route 66, but it's like kind of right off 22. So if you're anywhere in the area, please come. It's a wonderful show. I vended there one in April, and it was fabulous. Lots of farm vendors, you know, not people who are vending farms, but from farms with their farm wools and stuff. It's really neat. Just a lot of really interesting things that I have not seen at other shows. So that will be Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. As soon as I'm done with that, I'll be loading everything up and driving up here to the Mountain House to dump it all out of my car into the garage. And then I will be heading further east to New Jersey for a 5.5-hour drive after a whole day of show to go on a paddling trip with my husband. He will already be out there. This is an annual trip that happens with friends of his, and it just fell on the same weekend as this show. I told him I don't want you to miss the paddling to do the show with me. I said, just go. I'll do the show myself, and I will join you. Seemed like a good idea at the time. The thought of driving 5.5 hours in the dark after having vended all day does not seem like a really happy thing to me right now, but I'm sure it'll be fine. I just told him, I said, if I get too tired, I'm going to pull over somewhere and sleep in my car. I'll see you in the morning. And he's like, oh, you can make it. Just drink coffee. I'm like, no. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure it'll be fine, but I'm going to have a long day that day. So then we're going to paddle on Sunday with that group, and then we're going to stay an extra day and paddle, just the two of us, since I won't be getting out there until a day later, and we're going to be out there, so we might as well have fun. So I will have like a 3-day period where I'm not here at the house dying and doing a lot of stuff I need to do, but I've looked at the calendar. It's going to be fine. Everything's good. It's a busy time of year, and I'm good with that. I would rather be busy than not busy. So anyway, as far as shop news, in addition to vending, I wanted to let you know that the Overcome pre-orders have been shipped. They're out in the mail today, so they are all out to you. Thank you so much to everyone who ordered a skein of Overcome. That was the yarn that I was dyeing as a fundraiser for hurricane relief back when there was only Harvey and Irma. We've now since had Maria and Nate that have affected the U.S. and U.S. territories. I did make the donation to the Salvation Army, as I had said I was going to do. I raised $185 through the generosity of you guys purchasing that yarn. So thank you so very much. I did post a copy of the receipt in the Fiber Nymph Dye Works group. I started a thread specifically about that. So please, if you want to check that out and verify that I made the deposit or the donation, it's there. But I just want to say thank you again for helping out in that way, because you know, every time I watch the news and see people who are still dealing with, you know, no power, no water, like in Puerto Rico, it's just unbelievable, you know. Anyway, so whatever help we can give people is helpful. Help is helpful. Isn't that insightful? Let's see. The only other thing I wanted to mention is I told you I'm probably not going to be doing another shop update prior to my show next week. That may have been an inadvertent lie, because in the course of dyeing for the show, I have actually dyed up a few other things for the shop. One of which, I don't have any of them to show you right now, that's why I can't tell you when I'm going to put them up, but one of which is my Mountain House Autumn colorway. So if you have been enjoying my Mountain House colorway series, I hope you're going to love this one, because this may be my favorite. Like, my Mountain House Winter colorway is really a favorite just because it was the first one I did and I loved it so much. But autumn is my season, and I absolutely love autumn color palettes. And it was like, I couldn't not do an autumn colorway for up here. And the foliage has been cooperating so wonderfully. So I will be having some of that. And I'll probably have more of that after the show if it doesn't all sell what I'll be taking to the show. But I'm hoping to be able to get at least a handful of skeins up into the shop before my show. Plus, I have a couple of other fall colorways that or at least one other one that I haven't done yet. I was so focused on Halloween colorways, I wasn't really thinking about fall colorways yet. So my Autumn Speckles colorway that I did last year, I did up some extra ones of those too. So maybe I'll pop those in the shop. It'll just be a very mini micro update if I do it. And I'm probably not going to record any type of preview for it. So you may want to just pay attention to the Fiber Nymph Dye Works page on Facebook or the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Instagram account. The Ravelry group too, I post in there. I'll let you know if I'm putting anything up and when. So you can check that out. To that end, I also want to let you know that there's still a lot of stuff in the shop, and usually what I do the week before a show is I pull a lot of stock from my shop inventory to use for my show. I will be doing that early next week. Obviously not the stuff that I'm going to put up before the show, like what I just mentioned. If I put it in there, it'll be in there. But whatever's in there right now, if there's something that you've been eyeing and you think, ooh, I might like that, you might want to hop on that now, because I am going to be pulling a bunch of stuff out early next week, probably Monday, to put in my show inventory. What doesn't sell, I'll put back into my shop inventory. I would love to be able to maintain two separate inventories and always have a show inventory and always have a shop inventory, but that is just not logistically possible for me. I just don't have the space to do that. So this is how I have to do it. But I just wanted to give you the heads up. If there's something you've been looking at and you might want it, now might be a really good time to go hop over there and purchase it, in case it gets sold and it's not there anymore. So, okay, I think that is everything. I'm going to go. I need to process this and get some dyeing done this afternoon, and I will talk to you again next week. I do plan to record next week before the show. So if all goes well, I'll be doing that, and we'll see you next week. Bye.